So it's got to come down to mindset. People talk about that all the time, of course, but it really does. And when you think about just the process of buying a large multifamily, you may hear that someone's bought a duplex and they really want to jump up to a 10 unit. Well, if you talk about a 10 unit or a 50 unit or a 100 unit, it's really just all about, adding a zero in there. The process of actually really just buying the property and stabilizing property and putting together a plan, it actually gets easier the larger the property is because you start to play with economies of scale in your favor. So in terms of having, let's say, 100 unit versus 10 unit, if you're going to get agency Fannie or Freddie debt and they want you to be 90% stabilized, if you're going after a 10 unit property and it has 2 vacancies, well, you're going to have a hard time getting that agency debt because now here you are at 80%, when in fact, if it was a 100 unit property and you had 2 vacancies or even 8 vacancies, you're still over that 90% threshold, and it just makes it a lot easier for yourself. Next part of that is that you become into a lot more professional settings. So you can find property managers who are a lot more proficient with a 100 unit property because you can afford to hire a staff that's actually going to be allocated just for your property instead of having to pay every time something happens, or maybe having a bunch of part-time people helping with your property. Where if you have a plumbing issue on a site that's a 100 unit property, well, your maintenance guy may be able to tackle that immediately before that issue becomes out there. But if it's a 10 unit, maybe you have to call a plumber. Then the plumber has to come out there, assess the issue. Then he has to figure out what's the problem. Then he has to go out there, go to the store, buy the part, then come back to here. And now a issue that maybe paid a guy $15, $20 an hour for has now become a $200, $300, $400 issue. And now if that happens a number of times a year, that chews up a lot of cash flow. And that can really quickly turn your property into something that can be, say, less desirable compared to a property where you have it all built into the process. And when you're buying a smaller property, they're all buying businesses. If you think of it like this, you're all looking at the cash flow you can kick off. You can get a lot more out of a larger property just really based on what you can build into the property and what you can add to your property based on anything from different fees you could put in there in terms of move-in fees or pet fees, or different ways that you can basically generate on the water savings, or having one roof or 2 roofs on a 100 unit property versus having 1 roof on a 10 unit property. These are all things that add into your favor based on economies of scale.